Here's something nobody tells you about money. $10,000 won't make you rich. It won't buy you a mansion, a yacht, or a private jet. But it will do something far more powerful. It'll change the way you think, the way you sleep at night, the way you walk into a room. And here's the crazy part. Most people will never experience this shift. Not because they can't, but because they don't believe they can. So today, I'm going to show you exactly why $10,000 is the most underrated financial milestone in existence. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see money and yourself completely differently. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Mr. Dean, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're about to dive deep into the psychology and strategy of building real wealth. Now, let me ask you something. When you think about financial goals, what number comes to mind? $1 million? Maybe 100,000? Those are great targets. But here's what I've learned from studying thousands of successful people. The real magic, the life-altering transformation, doesn't happen at $1 million. It happens at 10,000. That's right, 5 figures. And I'm going to prove it to you. This isn't just about the money itself. It's about what that money represents. Proof, momentum, and power. So buckle up, because we're going on a journey that might just change your financial future forever. Let's start with the big one, psychological proof. You see, most people live their entire lives believing they are not good with money. They've convinced themselves of this lie through years of living paycheck to paycheck. But here's the thing about limiting beliefs. They only survive in the absence of evidence. And $10,000, that's undeniable evidence. Think about it. Saving $10,000 requires discipline. It requires saying no to impulse purchases hundreds of times. It requires planning, patience, and persistence. You can't luck into it. You can't fake it. You have to earn it through intentional behavior. And when you finally hit that milestone, something shifts in your brain. You look at your bank account and think, wait, I did that. Me. The person who couldn't save $100 last year just saved 10,000. That moment, that's when you become a different person. Because now you have proof. Not hope. Not a wish. Proof that you can control money instead of letting it control you. Let me tell you a quick story. I once knew a guy. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus worked in retail, made maybe 35 grand a year. 4 years, he lived like most people do, spending everything he earned, sometimes more. Then one day, he decided to try something crazy. He automated $50 a week into a savings account he couldn't easily access. 2 years later, Marcus had over $5,000 saved. He was shocked, then motivated. He increased it to $75 a week. 18 months after that, he crossed 10,000. And you know what Marcus told me? He said, "Dean, the money's great, but what really changed was how I see myself. I used to think I was broken. Now I know I'm just getting started." That, my friends, is the power of psychological proof. $10,000 doesn't just sit in your account. It sits in your mind, whispering, "You're capable of so much more." All right, let's talk about something fascinating. $10,000 makes you magnetic to opportunities. And no, I'm not talking about some woo-woo law of attraction nonsense. I'm talking about cold, hard economics. Here's the reality. The financial world has gates. And most of those gates require capital to walk through. Want to invest in real estate? You need money for down payment. Want to start a business? You need startup capital. Want to take advantage of a market crash? You need cash ready to deploy. $10,000 is the key that unlocks these gates. It's enough to invest in index funds and watch compound interest work its magic. It's enough to buy your first rental property in some markets. It's enough to start a legitimate side business. It's enough to become a private investor in someone else's venture. But here's what's even more powerful. $10,000 gives you time. And in finance, time is literally money. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're working a job you hate, but you can't leave because you live paycheck to paycheck. Then your car breaks down. Emergency. Panic mode. You take out a payday loan at ridiculous interest rates, which sets you back further. Sound familiar? Now imagine the same scenario, but you've got 10,000 in the bank. Car breaks down. Annoying, but not catastrophic. You pay cash. No debt. No stress spiral. And here's the kicker. Because you're not panicking, you can take your time finding a better job. You can negotiate salary. You can walk away from bad offers. This is what I call the confidence multiplier. When you have money in the bank, you don't just have financial security. You have leverage. You make better decisions. You spot opportunities others miss because you're not in survival mode anymore. I've seen this play out hundreds of times. People with emergency funds negotiate higher salaries because they are willing to walk away. They invest in themselves, courses, certifications, networking events, because they can afford to bet on their future. They start businesses because they have a runway to test ideas. $10,000 doesn't just open doors. It puts you in a position where you can choose which doors to walk through. And that, my friend, is the difference between living reactively and living strategically. Okay, let's get real for a second. Can we talk about stress? Financial stress is brutal. It keeps you up at night. It ruins relationships. It makes you snap at people you love. It literally shortens your lifespan. According to research, financial stress is one of the leading causes of anxiety and depression in adults. And it makes total sense, right? When you don't know if you can pay rent, everything else feels meaningless. But here's the beautiful thing about $10,000. It buys peace of mind. And peace of mind, that's priceless. Think about what 10,000 represents in practical terms. For most people, that's 3 to 6 months of bare-bones expenses. That means if you lose your job tomorrow, you're not immediately in crisis mode. You have time to find something good instead of taking the first desperate option. I call this the sleep well at night fund. And trust me, the first time you sleep through the night without worrying about money, that's a feeling $10,000 can't capture, but it absolutely creates. Let me share something personal. Years ago, before I understood money, I was living on the edge. I'd check my bank account before buying groceries. I'd avoid opening bills. I'd lie awake at 3 a.m. doing mental math. Okay, if I skip lunch 4 times this week, I can make rent. That's not living. That's surviving. And it's exhausting. Then I saved my first 5,000, then 10, and something incredible happened. I started sleeping better, making better decisions, feeling more creative. Why? Because my brain wasn't constantly running worst-case scenarios. Here's what the self-help gurus won't tell you. You can't manifest abundance when you're in survival mode. You can't think big when you're worried about small. $10,000 lifts you out of the survival zone and puts you into the growth zone. And in the growth zone, that's where miracles happen. That's where you take risks, build businesses, invest in yourself, chase dreams, all because you're not afraid of running out of money next Tuesday. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, compound interest. Einstein supposedly called it the 8th wonder of the world. And while $10,000 won't retire you, it's the perfect amount to watch this magic in action. Let's say you invest $10,000 in a low-cost index fund averaging 10% annual returns. Nothing fancy. Just set it and forget it. After 10 years, without adding another penny, you'd have about $26,000. Wait, it gets better. After 20 years, nearly 6 to 7,000. 30 years, over 170,000. From just 10 grand. But here's the real secret sauce. 10,000 isn't just about what it grows into. It's about what it teaches you. Because when you watch your money make money, you become addicted to the process. You start thinking, if 10,000 can do this, what about 20, 50, 100? This is how wealth actually gets built, folks. Not through lottery tickets or get-rich-quick schemes, but through the boring, beautiful magic of compound growth combined with consistent behavior. Let me break down the real power move. Once you hit 10,000 in savings, split it. Keep half as your emergency fund, your peace of mind money. Take the other 5,000 and invest it. Now you've got security and growth working simultaneously. And here's the psychological trick. Once you see that 5,000 growing, you get motivated to add more. Maybe you start investing $200 a month. That compounds on top of your original investment. Before you know it, you're not just saving money, you're building a wealth machine. The people who build serious wealth, they all started somewhere. And for many of them, that somewhere was $10,000 and a decision to never look back. All right, we're getting to the deepest part. The part nobody talks about. When you save $10,000, you don't just change your bank account. You change your identity. See, most people identify as broke. Not because they want to, but because they've never experienced anything else. They tell themselves stories. I'm just not good with money. I'm a spender, not a saver. Rich people have advantages I don't have. But when you save $10,000, those stories crumble. You can't tell yourself you're not good with money while looking at 5 figures in your account. The evidence contradicts the story. And here's what happens next. You start making decisions from your new identity. The person who has $10,000 saved doesn't blow money on stupid stuff. Why? Because that's not who they are anymore. This is the secret the wealthy understand. Your net worth follows your self-worth. When you see yourself as someone who builds wealth, you automatically make wealth-building choices. It becomes natural, not forced. I've watched this transformation countless times. People who hit 10,000 suddenly start reading about investing. They listen to finance podcasts. They ask questions. They surround themselves with others who value financial growth. Not because they have to, because they want to, because that's who they've become. So if you take nothing else from this video, take this: $10,000 is not the finish line. It's the starting gun. It's the moment you become someone who builds wealth. And once you become that person, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Listen, I know $10,000 might seem impossible right now. Maybe you're starting from zero. Maybe you're in debt. Maybe you're thinking, Dean, I can barely save $100. I get it. But here's what I need you to understand. Every single person who's sitting on $10, $50, or $100,000 started exactly where you are. With doubt, with fear, with a bank account that looked nothing like their dreams. The difference? They started anyway. They saved $10, then $20, then $50. They made it automatic. They stayed consistent. And one day, they woke up and realized they'd done the impossible. So here's my challenge to you. Start today. I don't care if it's $5 or $50. Open a separate savings account right now. Automate a transfer. Make it untouchable. And commit to the journey. Because 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, you're going to look back at this moment as the turning point. The day you decided to become someone who builds wealth. If this video fired you up, smash that like button. Subscribe for more financial truth bombs. Drop a comment telling me your $10,000 goal date. Let's build accountability together. I'm Mr. Dean, and I believe in you. Now go prove yourself right.